I'm Gary Nickerson.
And I'm Quinn Taggart.
And this is Outside My Window. Dorgam Hideib and his family have called Yarmouth home for the past 14 years. In October of 2020, Dorgam stepped into the role of CEO of the Mariner Centre to support the goal of facility expansion. Now, during this time, he's helped navigate the Mariner Centre through the pandemic while taking on the huge task of reopening the former YMCA as Mariners on Main. Welcome.
For the sake of this conversation and anybody who might listen, the pronunciation of my name is always always a chuckle. So I'll just jump in and say there is a silent G in my name. It is silent, so my name is pronounced Dorgam Hideib. So it's like the 80s band Duran Duran, just without an N, but for an M. So Dorgam Hideib.
A lot has happened since we talked to you last. So talk about the expansion. Give us some details there since we last chatted.
For sure. It's been, I think I jumped into the role in October 2020. And what really drew me to the opportunity was the reality that this expansion could happen. The community, the consensus in our communities clearly, we're ready for an expansion of this important facility, the Mariner Centre. Over the past year, and I'll just do this from memory, they've a number of milestones, I would say, speak to this expansion effort. The three municipalities involved, the town of Yarmouth, the municipality of Yarmouth, and the municipality of Argyll, they did a reset on the expansion steering committee. And that steering committee has representation from all three municipalities, and then folks like myself and other staff members that sort of help direct from an operational point of view. So they've reset the steering committee, and more importantly, they've agreed on a budget. So the three municipalities have committed to a $30 million budget for this expansion. They've also committed to their portion of it being $10 million. And they've also worked together on what that formula would mean in terms of their individual contribution on that $10 million and the ongoing operational support. So all that happened. In tandem, that steering committee with architects in the province here submitted a really robust application for federal funding to, and I'm going to try and get this right, the Green and Inclusive Communities Building Fund. And we submitted that application in July of 2021. It was a collaborative effort across the three municipalities, and we're really proud of that document. And that's for $16 million. So of the $30 million, we're looking for $16 million from the federal government. $10 million will come from the municipalities, and the balance from our provincial partners. So all that happened last year, and I don't want to miss out on any other milestones. And then most recently, we advanced the award of what I would call a fundraising consultant. So we did an RFP last year, reaching out to what we call capital or philanthropic fundraising consultants that can literally put your campaign together. So with such a huge project, $30+ million, we did not want to underestimate the planning involved at the community level and the regional level for fundraising. And this would include both the sponsorship and advertising, but also philanthropic philanthropic contributions that could help with the capital required to build this expansion. So we've awarded the work on that recently, and we're starting to work with fundraising experts on what that campaign will look like. And we should see that active this year. And that will mean a lot in terms of, I think, signaling to the community that the municipalities are continuing to be serious about this expansion and that we intend to make it happen.
So, Dorgam, what percent of that $30 million has to come in from fundraising?
Well, that's part of what the consultants will identify for us. They're literally going to help size what that target fundraising amount should look like based on the market we're in here regionally. So we don't want to underestimate what that is. So, coming up with that number on our own, there's a very likelihood that we would be off. So with experts to help guide us who have done this for similar facilities in the region and in Canada, we're going to know how aggressive we should be for fundraising. So I don't have that number at this point.
Would the other contributions hinge on meeting that fundraising goal? Is that a hard target?
No, the fundraising goal is not a requirement for this project. We do need to see the federal and provincial amounts supported for a project like this to happen. The fundraising would help, I believe, just add to what we can do with this project. And I think the community is excited, and we'll see some value there. It is a much smaller percentage of the numbers that I outlined, both federally and provincially, and what the municipalities would contribute.
So before we talk a little bit about what the expansion looks like, is 30 million a realistic number given the fact that you're looking, years down the road for this?
It's a great question. So that number is not a number that was pulled out of the sky. That was done with architectural and engineer contributions recently. So that number is a current estimate of what it would cost. And what that expansion would include would be a modern aquatics facility. So 6-lane, 25-meter pool, a leisure pool to support wading and other activity and swimming lessons for the little wee ones, and a large, what I'll call spa or hot tub in the aquatics. That 30 million also includes fitness space, so where people can go work out cardio and weights. So a robust space for fitness and studio space for group fitness and other classes, and additional multi-purpose and meeting space. The designs, we actually have a little display at Mariners on Main, and we're going to get one up, get some more information up on our website. But it will also include a much more expanded public or common space added to the facility. So you can imagine as you come into the entry and foyer, imagine much more space, 2 levels of common and public space that can be used for just socializing, gathering, and it can be also purposed for receptions and event space. So we're excited about the design that we have to date. Those designs were required, and the costing was required for us to submit for those applications I mentioned. And I think it'll meet the demands of what this community is looking for. They're really looking for Mariner Center to be a community hub. Like, it is a community hub now, but when you add those features, you bring in much more of the population for the different activities, both recreation and events.
Now, in one of the earlier iterations of the expansion, I remember the curling was part of that. At what point did that kind of fall off? And ice making, I forgive my ignorance, but it would just seem like curling would fit in along with hockey, and that your ice making equipment might give you some economy of scale. But did that not work out? Is this how we've settled in on what we're looking at now?
I wish I could tell you more on why the curling rink came off the program, but that was before my time.
Gotcha.
But what I can tell you is what that budget allows for. That doesn't mean that space won't continue to expand even beyond this expansion. So this is what I'd call the current expansion and what the current budget affords. But the Mariner Center site is fantastic for space. So, you talk about what's there already. We'll be hopefully breaking ground even this year on a splash park. There's been an incredible effort by the Splash Park Society fundraising, and they're very near their goal. And you're going to see an incredible addition to the community space with a splash park on the Mariner Center grounds. So I think the Mariner Center site is it's got so much opportunity. The near-term opportunity is is what I described, and that doesn't mean more can't happen years down the line.
Once things are up and running and you've got your, got the aquatic center in and so on, is the plan to close Mariners on Main and retire that whole facility?
So Mariners on Main, the reopening of the former YMCA, was done with the intention that we would be there for as long as we needed to be. So, when I first started, the idea of Mariners on Main was sort of a possibility, but wasn't. It was sort of on the horizon, and very quickly, the community. I think you probably followed it. The community was very vocal on the need to have a pool open and the ability to continue to support swimming lessons and recreation and not have to drive 45 minutes away. So when they looked for an operator and were considering operators, there was very strong argument that Mariners Center step in and operate that space, because ultimately when you combine the two facilities, that's what we will be operating in the expansion. So to your question, we hope that we're there for only as long as we need to. We hope that the expansion project proceeds, and within 5 years, we're stepping away from the Main Street facility, which is it's an aged facility, and it only has so many years left. We step into the modern facility I described.
So with the current design for the expansion, and again, forgive me for not looking at this particular aspect of the design, but what have you got planned for green? Are we looking solar? Are we looking at what sort of economies of scale to try to reduce your footprint?
Right. So I probably should have the document up that describes that, but it would be zero carbon. So
wow.
So it would I believe that's the term. So it would have zero carbon footprint. It would be fully efficient that way, and that I think is generally the requirement for these types of buildings that are receiving the support from the different levels of government.
Facilities like Mariner Center and Mariners on Main are much more than just buildings to towns like Yarmouth, more than brick and mortar. Can you speak about that different kind of importance to the community?
Your point, Gary, on how people view the Mariner Center as more than just a bricks and mortar facility is super on point. When I first started, we did a community survey just to help set our priorities. So I was stepping in new, and I really wanted to get a sense of things. We put a community survey out in the first couple months after I started. We got over 900 responses from the community. It was outstanding, and that helped shape our set of strategic priorities for the next 5 years. But one of the points that just came out over and over again is, people have grown up at the Mariner Center. There are kids who, played ice sports in this space or come there for other events and activities, and now are bringing their kids. And the language that they used was they want to see this space continue to serve that role as a community hub, and they wanted to see more features and infrastructure so that they could come there for even more reasons as they mature and they bring their kids and their grandkids to those spaces. So you're right on. The community looks at that space as a hub where people and multi-generational can gather and enjoy their time there. The other thing we learned that the community views the Mariner Center in two ways. They view it as a recreational facility for sure, and that's obvious. And then with the addition of Mariners on Main, we're even doing more on recreation and fitness. But they also, in almost equivalently, look at Mariner Center as an event space. It's where they go when there is a significant event in the Yarmouth area. So it's where high school kids have gone for graduation. NSCC has gone for their graduations. It's where people have gone for their recitals. It's where the communities come and gather together around for galas and fundraising events. It's where families and folks have come for a night of entertainment or a concert, trade shows, and down meetings and events and training events. So they view the Mariner Center as, yes, a recreational facility, but also a place where the community gathers for sport, for entertainment and other events.
I don't think it was a great shock to anyone when the former YMCA closed. I mean, you didn't have to read too deep in the tea leaves to know that that was going to happen. But I was so hugely impressed by how quickly everything came together from the time of that announcement that the YMCA was closing to when the announcement came about Mariners on Main. I was hugely impressed. Can you talk about that? That must have been a very, well, certainly a stressful time, but a very exciting time as well.
Well, thank you. I'm glad that was your impression, Gary. So, yeah, I'd love to talk about that. It still feels like it's happening. So I got to say it comes down to some great people across the municipality and the staff that we have and that have been part of Mariner Center for years and decades, and the staff that we are able to bring on new to help accomplish that in really short order. So, I mean, we didn't have to build the building. So when we, and I would say it wasn't a renovation in that we were moving walls and changing the layout of the space, but it was, I'd call, an empty shell that had a fair bit of deferred or maintenance waiting for us to get in there and work. So if I had written the plan, our reopening plan now, knowing what we've done and are continuing to still work at, yeah, I would have given ourselves more time. So I say that with a chuckle and a little bit of a tear here, but I'm on radio. But so if you don't mind, I'd like to just sort of highlight a few details just off the cuff here, just what that opening meant. So, you know, we have some great team members that care for that space. There is a building operator, Chris Weatherby, who was part of the YMCA and kept the lights on that space, or kept the space warm in the time that it was closed. So he worked with the town to make sure that the facility didn't fall too far into disrepair. And he continues to be that building operator, and the building speaks to him. So he was integral, along with our the town engineer, Mark Brophy, in supporting this outcome and working with me very closely on that outcome. So I call those folks out. And so, yeah, there's a lot of mechanical, plumbing, electrical. We also, and I hope I'm not going to miss anybody, we have an incredible partner with Dave Crabb, who does our IT support, who basically, we had to rip out the entire cabling that was waiting for us. It had all aged out, and we did a whole new data network there to support the infrastructure that we need for our IT, and that's now functional. So I call him out as well. And then we have basically the services that we're trying to offer and get better at. And we brought on a really strong aquatics and programs manager in Rylan Hustad. And she actually joins us all the way from British Columbia. So when we put that posting out, it was national, and Rylan joins us from, she's grown up in a pool and has done this before, and is helping us raise our game as we sort of expand what we have traditionally operated, and that is, you know, the Mariner Center, and we're incredibly good at ice. We're known around the province for great ice and great ice sport, and hosting those spaces. But now we've got a lot to learn about hosting another important space, and that's aquatics. So she's helped us ramp up our lifeguards and our aquatics programming, along with the name you'll remember, Jen Hood, who supported us in the training and the ramp up of our lifeguards. So all of that, along with, and I'm going to keep rambling, we really wanted, as far as a theme to what we wanted to achieve, was make sure that this space is clean and friendly. So as we brought in custodial team members and we hired our guest services supervisor, Doug Cook is another name I want to make sure I call out, Doug Cook. As we built out our front desk and guest services and custodial, clean and friendly was the theme that we took as we approached all the steps with the reopening. And now we've been open since October, mid-October, and membership is growing. Our programs are growing. We are now at about 24 group fitness classes in the schedule a week. We're in the midst of our second full session of swimming lessons in the pool, and we're seeing the space get busier and busier as the COVID restrictions relax. So there's so much more to say on this one, but yeah, it was a heavy lift, but a lot of folks were involved, including our Mariners Center team. So the staff that I think everyone has come to know over at Mariners Center, Dave Clayton, Rick Clayton, Jeff Baker, Kevin Vallely, Calvin Johnson, and Nick Doucette, all supported and were bought in fully on the expanded Mariners Center organization, because they know that our journey is, let's operate these two spaces and send everyone in the community a strong message that they should feel confident the Mariners Center can operate an expanded facility in the years ahead.
Obviously, you and your family liked Yarmouth enough that you became part of this community. We're all glad for that. 14 years, but for 12 of those years, you lived in the community before you took the position as CEO. So, can you tell me what degree did the vibrancy of the community and the community support and all of that, what degree did that lead you to take that job and accept that position as CEO? How did that play into it?
Oh, that's a great question. So for the years that I've been here, it was register.com that moved me into the community at the time in 2008, which then became web.com. And was very fortunate there, plenty of opportunity, and moved up in my role there over those years, and was able to work across the province and into the States and still be able to live here in beautiful Yarmouth, Nova Scotia. So, I mean, I don't think my story is unique. I'm a city boy who adjusted to coastal rural living, and it gets its hooks in you. And we were able to, we arrived here with an 11-month-old, my son Gabriel, in 2008, and we added to the population with my daughter Yasmin, who's now 12, and my son Marcus, who's now 7. And when web.com wound down their operations, we had a decision to make. There was an invitation to continue to work with them, but it would mean moving. And we thought about it, and the answer was pretty clear. We're very happy here, so let's just find a way to stay here. And I feel very lucky that this position with the Mariners Center was available, and that the folks at the municipality saw fit, because when you're raising a young family in the community, you really do see it differently, and these facilities and these spaces matter to the energy of the community, and making it attractive and appealing for people to stay here who are already here, and to attract new folks to the region. So when you look at, when that opening week at Mariners on Main, I'll tell you, couldn't believe it. I was seeing young moms and dads come in with their little toddlers for parent and taught swims. And I was like, wow, that caught me off guard. I was like, this space was closed for a long time. And that segment of our population was going without a really important space. I'm seeing my teenage son, my 14-year-old son, in there 4 times a week playing pickup ball, even through COVID, finding a way to schedule and access the space, and having fun with his friends in the youth space. My daughter and my youngest play hockey, and I'm in the Mariners Center personally. I'm there several times a week to get them on the ice and off the ice, and I know many others are. So I think I'm probably deviating from your question, but the year that I've been in the role, a year and a few months, been super energizing, because not only have we done something I think really important as a team here, reopening that space, but we've kept both spaces open during a pandemic. So we've been very fortunate, I think, because of the geography here. Until most recently, we've almost been without COVID, and it has allowed us to keep these facilities open and accessible to the limit of public health restrictions. And my gosh, you have to keep these spaces open. You have to invest in them, because communities need a place to flex and recreate and socialize and connect. So it's just a pleasure to help support that need and deliver on those needs. I still got lots to learn. So I'm prattling on, but man, you pressed a button there. Thanks for the question.
You get hired in October of 2020, right in the middle of a pandemic. I mean, you must be thinking at that point, geez, how am I going to keep this thing moving?
Yeah. I looking back, I would have done a little bit more reading on on the restrictions and what the pandemic meant for public spaces, because I had to hit the ground running on that one. But I actually, I only know navigating these spaces through the pandemic. And I was joking recently, well, I don't know if I'm even qualified now that the restrictions have been removed. But we are still in the pandemic. The restrictions have been removed. It allows for people to access our spaces with no restrictions. But we are absolutely still making sure people feel welcome to feel safe and take the steps that they need to be safe. So we've got our staff still behind acrylic barriers at our guest services in our box office. We encourage them to wear masks if they feel better about doing so. And the same thing goes for our users and our guests and our members at the 2 facilities. We've kept our fitness equipment spaced out still. So we took a few pieces off our gymnasium floor so that social distancing, we be realistic about, supporting some space in between cardio equipment and other exercise equipment. We're going to keep that for a little while longer because I think it's the right thing to do, because COVID's still with us. So,
sure.
But yeah, it does make for a lot more work. It's sort of an odd juxtaposition or contradiction, where most of the pandemic you were forced to do less So you could only do so much because of all the restrictions, capacity limits, gathering limits, sports, and all the rest of it. But it was way more work to do less, and to let these activities continue. So, but there is a community of facilities, and we all reach out and check in and make sure we're all on the same page, because there is no playbook for this. But so there's a lot of correspondence with other facilities and making sure that we all felt confident we were making good decisions for in the interest of safety of our users and our staff.
Now, the Mariner Center is in a unique position where, you know, they have a video crew that's totally volunteer, and I've been proudly part of that team for the last 9 years plus. And I know a few others that have been there since the beginning of that. But, you know, with that in mind, there's more volunteers that hit the ground in a community center like the Mariner Center or Mariners on Main. So give us a little feel for how, you know, the pandemic impacted the volunteer base, but then also to what sort of vision you have going forward.
That whole topic on volunteers was a very big part of my early education over the last year and a bit. Just the role of volunteers in making things happen, if I can put it that simply. So I've come to get to know, and I still could do more to engage with the volunteer groups in the community, and I hope to do so. But minor hockey, the Yarmouth Skate Club, who do can skate and figure skating, the swimming team within our existing space. We even expanded activity in the pavilion on the grounds of the Mariner Center, the Anthony Pavilion, and we set that up for pickleball. And a lot of that was driven by volunteers. But when you look at all of the activity that falls under minor hockey, Yarmouth Skate Club, the swim team, other community-driven events, that's all volunteers. And I've said this whenever I've had the chance when someone puts a microphone in front of me. If you feel grateful about the fact that you've got options for minor sports and other recreational opportunities, think about how much extra work it was for volunteers to deliver on those opportunities through the pandemic. There were so many pivots and adjustments to be made at a facility level, and for every one of those pivots, there was an equivalent amount of work, if not more, within these sport bodies, so that they could deliver us these activities under the ever-changing restrictions of the pandemic. It was just exhausting. And if you see one of these volunteers, or if you know them and you haven't adequately thanked them, this is the year to thank your volunteer. We wouldn't. Well, a lot of the activity that we opened the door for at Mariner Center is volunteer-driven. Period. And that was exciting to get to know that group and work with them. And that includes your adult leagues and your men's leagues and your other adult leisure leagues that organize so that they can continue to enjoy their sports, which is really good to see.
As this airs, it'll be April the 1st, which will be leading into, of course, April, which is Volunteer Month. So if you had the floor for a couple of minutes to talk to the volunteers as a whole, go for it.
Yeah, I would say so. One of the you learn about what are the unique attributes and competencies that allow a space like the Mariner Center to be so well recognized and supported, and now the community feeling that, after 20 years at the existing facility, not only do they hold it so closely in their hearts and minds, but that we are ready for an expansion. A lot should be said about the volunteer organizations that supported the activity under that roof. And so my hat's off to you. The other thing that's unique and special about the Mariner Center, and you mentioned it earlier, is the MC Media team. And I'm still learning about both the heritage of that team and how generous and committed that group is. I'm learning as I go that you might be unique in the region, if not the province or Atlantic Canada, in your ability to deliver high quality, high definition live streaming, full production on a volunteer basis. So, you know, I'm probably doing it a disservice in my explanation of it, but we're trying to nurture what you guys do, and we're making efforts to make sure that we maintain that amazing kit of broadcasting equipment so you can continue to do what you do for years to come.
I appreciate that. You know, and I've been involved in community television for about 40 years on and off, and the ability to come in and do work at the Mariner Center was a bit of an offshoot for me when I first joined in. But you know, 9 years later, I'm still there. You know, it really gives us an opportunity to give back into the community, and I think that's the big key. And I know that people look at Nick and see that, all right, well, Nick works there, so if he's there, he's there. But all the time he puts in, you know, doing the video work for the Mariners games and so on, we're all volunteers. It's in a completely volunteer run crew.
We need to put a spotlight on that and celebrate it, because I keep hearing we've got the best live feed in the province. We've got the best live stream in the province, and that actually was something that became sort of front stage during the pandemic, when people couldn't even access the building for a stretch. You know, the sports could continue on the ice, but spectators and parents and grandparents and friends and family could not come in the building. And all of a sudden, we quickly pivoted to streaming because we had the equipment, but more so because we had this amazing team in MC Media. So I don't know if the community recognizes how many extra hours you did as a team over the pandemic to deliver this broadcasting of minor sports, in addition to Junior A and the other activities you're known for, but minor sports, to bring that activity to people's phones and computers who are sitting in the parking lot, or maybe grandparents sitting around the province who get to see their kids play more often than they might have usually done.
Well, part of the satisfaction for us is, of course, when we do get some feedback and the people are appreciative of the work that we're doing. I know that parents that can't make the trip down for a tournament, or you know, they're in the military and they're serving overseas. We've had comments from all those types of groups that have, you know, said thank you, but also too with the Mariners. I mean, of course, all those kids are coming in from all over the place. And so the only way that their families can tune in is to watch the stream.
Yeah, it's been great.
The Mariners Center is also there for the community in times of need. Obviously, many people know when there's issues with the water supply, especially those who live outside of town or rely on wells. They were able to go to Mariners Center. But beyond that, is there also is Mariner Center also part of the regional, I guess we could call it emergency management plan? Heaven forbid, should there be some kind of a disaster?
It is, Gary. Yeah, and early on in my time, that group met with me and we reviewed and made sure that plan was current. So we stand ready with the EMS groups and I believe the Red Cross to make our spaces available in cases just like that. And we hope that doesn't happen, but we are available. That plan is up to date and current if we need to. I will also point out that I think we're approaching a year now, we've been hosting Nova Scotia Health in our community room at Mariner Center, hosting the COVID testing clinic. So, you know, that has been a busy space through the pandemic, as demand has ebbed and flowed for the need for testing, and people can access. I don't know if they're still scheduling appointments, but you go to Nova Scotia Health, you access requests on testing, and you're pointed, if you're in this region, to the testing clinic at the Mariner Center in the community room. You access that by driving around the east side of the building to the back entrance.
What's the roadmap for the balance of 2022 and beyond for the facilities?
Roadmap. So we are one of our. Oh, maybe I'll back that up, Gary. Thank you thanks for that question, Gary. We do have our strategic priorities set out for us for the next 5 years. So first and foremost, we have facility expansion. So facility expansion for us means the obvious around the upgrade to the facility that we've discussed in detail, just to meet the community's needs and expectations. But we also need to look at expanding our operating model to include what we were calling proactive programming, maximizing the spaces that we have and providing programs and services desired by the community. So Mariners on Main thrust us into that, and we're happy to continue to sort of tune and iterate and learn how to best deliver on that expanded offering. So expanded facility, expanded programming. Customer experience, we're also expanding guest services to ensure that we're delivering a positive customer experience in both of our facilities, and that we continue to establish our spaces as the community hub to ensure a welcoming, safe, social, accessible space. The other areas for us are just, we are governed by a board of directors, so we've got objectives around governance that we're working on in the coming year. And we've recently expanded our team considerably. We are upwards, we went from 1 facility to 2 in a matter of months. So human resource and polishing our practices around human resource, employee training and development will be a big priority very much in the near term, and making sure that we get continue to invest in our staff to support our objectives around expansion, customer experience, and programming.
So, Dorgam, with the expansion, I mean, you're going to have all new technology and all new guts, I guess, if you want to call it that, to the maintenance and management. But what's up for green energy? Is there solar panels? What are we looking at for a footprint?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm not an engineer and architect, but I can tell you that the expanded facility is going to meet what they call net zero requirements.
Wow.
And that will be, I believe, a requirement for all buildings by 2030. So the expansion is intended to be a community asset that will be reliable and economically viable for service for the next 50 years. So for that reason, it needs to meet those performance requirements, energy codes that I believe are going to be in effect as of 2025. So all that has been part of the design in what we're proposing here, and it is in our plan to date.
So we've been speaking with Dorgam Hideib from the Mariner Center and Mariners on Main. Thanks a lot for joining us in, Dorgam. We're going to check in with you as time goes by and get some updates on the expansion plans.
Cheers. Thank you both, Quinn and Gary. And if I just sign off by just thanking you for your time, and then for any staff members that are tuning in, because I know they're aware of your show, my hat's off to the staff that welcomed me into the role just over a year ago. We've got an incredible tenured and experienced staff, and I think that speaks to why that facility stands where it does in the community today. So hats off to the team that welcomed me.
I'm Gary Nickerson.
And I'm Quinn Taggart.
And this has been Outside My Window.